Hey guys, so this is a video that I've been planning to put out for nearly 2 weeks now, but the whole fiasco regarding the OGL and the daily announcements have really complicated measures. And this is a personal video, and I'm posting it here for full disclosure and transparency, and because in the future it's going to have a effect on the progress of DSX Machina to come, and I'll go into that. For those people who know me, I've already kind of explained this to my family and friends, most of my family and friends. So some people are going to watch this where this is going to be news to them, but it may not be entirely surprising. So yeah, so suffice to say, I've been in talk with several doctors. It started off with a casual observation about certain things they were noticing and certain behavioral aspects, and then we had a long conversation about certain things that happened in my past, and he basically said that I am likely. Actually, what he did is ask me to take a couple of tests, and I took them, and I came off on the spectrum. So he said, "You're basically you have autism," and for me that was weird because this is very very, I wouldn't say quickly per se. It's not been super fast because this has been happening over the course of 3 or 4 years, but in the span of my lifetime this has been something that has been very fast. Like the last 8 years of my life have been quite hectic. Obviously I didn't just catch autism. It's not like I got a cold and got autism. I've had it since I was a child, so a lot of people looking into that going, oh yeah, we can see it now. The interesting thing, of course, is that because I'm old, I'm 48 years old, there's not much that can be done at this point in time. And I'm not far enough on the spectrum to have a medical solution. But a little bit about myself. My home life wasn't terribly disruptive. Yeah, I've had some issues with some family members, and I won't go into that, but um, my parents are wonderful people, and I was raised in a loving environment, ultimately. But I had issues growing up. When I was in grade 4, in order to try to change the environment and improve my grades, I got sent away from public school into a private school. Now, you would think that would help the situation, but in fact, that made things a lot worse because the private school was a Christian school. And so I got pulled away from my friends, put into a much more restrictive environment, and what I was really enjoying about my life, which was indulging in my imagination and doing things where I can be creative, was stifled. There was no creativity, and I was absolutely depressed. I was miserable. Eventually, after a year and a half, through half of grade 4 and grade 5, they eventually pulled me back out and put me back into public school. And I was lucky in grade 6 to have some good teachers that noticed I was, the moment you let me be creative through writing, I would just kind of explode. I would just start creating stuff. I would write huge essays, as long as they were narrative, as long as they were creative. I would write huge essays, Evan. Then I unfortunately got separated from most of my friends. I went to not to a private high school, but a high school that was closer, where all my friends went to when that was further away. And my grades tanked, and the class I was doing the worst in was English. I got by halfway through the semester, I was trending an E. So in this situation, English was not a semester course; it was a full year course. And halfway through, knowing that I was failing miserably, they put me into a special education class. And I had a fantastic teacher named Bob Crook, a revelation. He was a fantastic teacher, and he did something that no other teacher did. He put me in front of a computer and had me start writing. And I wrote a novel. And he was curious why I was there, because I was not stupid. And when they allowed me to be creative, suddenly things would just kind of explode. I did actually end up passing English that year, just barely, 50.5%. Not kidding. And throughout my entire high school education, I was always struggling. I was a C plus B student, but there were these weird spots of where my creativity got to shine, and I would excel. There was one situation in grade 10 where we had to build a futuristic city, and everyone gave out like 10-minute presentations. And then I came up with my presentation with two other students that didn't do much, and our presentation was 40 minutes long. And I got, out of 30, I got a 60 out of 30. I excelled. And yet, despite this, and knowing the fact that, like at this point, like remember, this is still in the early 90s, and the idea of ADHD and autism just wasn't, people think of autism, they think of Rain Man. They don't think of this spectrum. They don't think about this range of people and engagement. There was no teacher that went, hey, shouldn't we look at this? And the situation got worse because I was recommended to go into SciTech. Now, SciTech, for people who don't know, is a type of science class which is designed for people who never want to think about science ever again. It's for people who are avoiding physics, chemistry, people who are not interested in biology, not interested in science in general. It is basically a type of elective that gives you a credit without having to do really any work. It's a very simplistic. It's like an intro math course. High school didn't understand me. It was a big problem. And going into college, things got better because I got to pick where I wanted to go. And I went into creative writing and screenwriting, and that's where I excelled. And my grades were very, very good. In the late 90s, a couple of friends, I wouldn't say made an intervention, but they tried to get me to talk to a psychologist. And the whole process, we started off with an intern, and they couldn't diagnose me. And so I was forwarded to a counselor. And the counselor had a conversation, sat down, we talked, and at the end of that, they couldn't diagnose me. So I got forwarded to a psychologist, and that's proceeded about a year and a half. And the best that she could manage was I had an adjustment disorder. And for those people who are curious, adjustment disorder is someone who can't handle change very well. And this was basically the best I got for years. So I did meet with a psychiatrist quite a few years ago, and we went through a couple battery of tests, and I came off pretty hardcore as having ADHD. Now, ADHD, adjustment disorder, autism, Asperger's, they're all very, very similar to the situation that sometimes it's easy to misdiagnose one for another. For example, some people with autism have issues communicating. They don't talk very much. And I am the complete opposite. I am a blabbermouth, and I don't shut up. But it actually goes extreme. As some people actually notice me online, I repeat myself over and over, and I get this rhythm where I end up saying the same thing. And people know we got the point, and for some reason I don't think they do, so I keep on repeating myself. And people said, I do work very, very well by myself. I don't like working with others. I don't make friends very often. And then as a result, I was extremely lonely romantically, and it was this horrible double-edged sword where I didn't want to deal with people, but I was also, and that's why I'm kind of like count my lucky stars that I did end up finding somebody, but I found them when I was 40 years old. Other symptoms is that sometimes some people will talk to me and I'm not hearing them. And as you might have noticed, I have issues staring at people. Like, me staring at the camera now is very hard for me to do. It's very difficult. And staring at people's faces, I get away from trying to stare at their chin or stare at their nose, but staring people in the eyes, very hard for me. I have some OCD. Oddly enough, the fidget spinners don't work for me. But if you have a piece of the type of cloth that you clean lenses with, for some reason, I'll just constantly mess around with that. I have a bit of a word salad, which is the reason why I'm very worried whenever I go live, because I can get into word salad. Word salad hits my writing a lot, which is the reason why I have to really edit my work. And I have to be very, very careful. And sometimes I have to write my script ahead of time to make sure that I don't repeat myself and I don't go into this word salad by saying the wrong word or a word that sounds similar to that. And you may even notice that, even though I'm heavily editing this video, you may notice that in how I talk. I'm trying to be more tolerant when it comes to other people's interests, but there was a time, especially when I was young, where if you weren't interested in what I was interested in, I wouldn't engage. And that was one thing that me and the psychologist we talked about at length. Being married has been a huge aspect of growth for me. It's allowed me to understand how I present myself to others, and I've started to understand more about my tone and how I can sometimes lose my temper. I am on medication. I'm on an anti-anxiety med, which has calmed me down so I don't lose my temper so much. I don't have a physical temper, but I have a tendency of I get more angry at myself. Most of the rage goes inside, goes internal. My memorization is also very, very selective. Other things that my doctor, oddly enough, it was the eye contact that really set the whole conversation off. And then they were analyzing things as easy as my handwriting. I'm incredibly uncoordinated. I have horrible hand-eye coordination, and my handwriting is atrocious. I've had at least 2 nervous breakdowns. The first one was revolving when we got the diagnosis that my dad was dying, and that was a rough one. I will focus on writing so much, I'll ignore everything else. I won't engage people online. I won't answer emails, and sometimes I'll completely isolate myself. It's been a process, and the fact that I'm getting this diagnosis so late in my life. And I think I would be much worse off if I hadn't gotten married and gotten a new circle of friends in the last 10 years. I think that's helped a lot because I have really good friends that are loyal and they understand and they're not they're not self-centered. And my desire to keep these people in my life has forced me to look at how I express myself and change my behavior. So even though I got this diagnosis late, for at least the last 10 years, I have been endeavoring to try to rewrite myself psychologically, trying to be a bit more brave, trying to take more risks. And that was something that's happened recently because I got very used to how my company was operating. But the problem with it is that my company was stagnant. It wasn't growing. And it was not growing because I didn't want to go outside my comfort zone. And when you're running a business, you kind of have to go outside your comfort zone. So that's one of the reasons why we've made offers to a couple people, one specifically, to come on board as a manager to help manage the company, to allow me to do my content creation and not worry about the administration of production runs and distribution and stuff like that, where they can handle that aspect of the business and I can concentrate on creating content. And so that's something that we're going forward, and we'll have more updates going in the coming months about who this person is, what they're going to be doing, and how that's going to be advantageous to the company in the long run, allowing us to produce more content for different rule systems and create some new original IPs. And something I'm very much interested in. So like I said, for some people who are watching this is in no way a surprise. Some people, it will be a surprise. So that's basically it. Like I said, I'm not looking for absolution. I'm not looking for sympathy. More of just educating people about what's going on and know that I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to not be as reserved. I'm trying to control my emotions a bit more, trying to say how much I do appreciate people. And I want to say thank you to my family and friends, especially my fans who do support me. I appreciate your confidence and your belief and your support, obviously. And like I said, it's something that it's going to be a constant struggle going forward. And people will notice that, especially on how I talk. Especially now that we're doing these workshops and you're seeing how I type. And you'll see me probably very often mistype and you'll get the wrong letters firing out. And that's because despite being a person that's been typing on a computer since I was a child, I still can't coordinate my fingers very well. So that's something you will notice going forward. But that was basically it. Thank you for listening. And if you've gotten this far, thank you very much. And I hope to produce more content for you guys soon. And thank you for listening.